Well, hello everyone. It's great to be back at the Winter Solstice I can't say here in Albury Wodonga, but in Albury Wodonga. I was at one of the first of these events, and it was a huge privilege to be invited. And it still is to be invited back. So thank you, Stu and Annette, and I hope everyone's travelling as well as can be expected in these really strange times. I guess, my feeling is that the fear and the disruption and the kind of lives being turned upside down by this pandemic has made everyone much more aware than ever before of the importance of good mental health and what happens if you lose that gift of good mental health. And so we've been thinking a lot about what it means for our society, for our community, post COVID-19, and obviously planning, for that recovery period. Now, obviously, the biggest threat has been to people's physical health posed by the virus, but the responses that we have had to take, and it's amazing what Australians have actually done to actually limit the spread of the virus. I think it's been, a real credit to all of us that we've been able to kind of turn back the tide. But it's come at a cost because the sort of measures that we have taken are actually undermine good mental health because they cut us off from each other. They restrict our sense of purpose and freedom, our sense of security. People need each other, and we've found it very difficult to, I think, remain in contact with each other during this period. It's kind of had an effect on our confidence about the world and about our safety and about our future. So, separation is one of the big threats to mental health. Loss, if we've lost relatives as a result of the epidemic. All of these things conspire to sort of undermine our mental health. Now, most people are going to be okay. Most people in this sort of situation, a disaster situation, do actually get through it, even though they might be very stressed and worried or even not feeling that good for a period of time. But we know with every disaster or every crisis like this, there is a surge of new episodes of poor mental health, either in people who have been perfectly okay their whole lives prior to that, if they've been exposed in a certain way, or more commonly, a very big chunk of our society has experienced poor mental health. It's about 20% in any given year, and it's at least half of us, if not more, across the whole of the lifespan. So all of those people are going to be at risk of a relapse or a new episode of poor mental health, and we have to plan for that. And that's something we have been talking to government about, both state and federal. They've both announced initial packages of response. Now, that's very positive that both governments, state and federal, in Victoria and federally, I'm not sure about New South Wales, but hopefully they've done something too. But that's really just an initial stabilisation effort. What we really need is a major investment in a more holistic, compassionate form of mental health care, a system of mental health care, which can be built in the wake of the pandemic. In Victoria, we have a Royal Commission, which is absolutely committed, as is the government, to kind of rebuilding our system. It's important to say that even before the pandemic, we were operating on a very low base in terms of mental health care. Only about a third of the people that needed specialist mental health care were actually able to get it. And the quality of it was a bit variable, as you all know. So low base, different from the physical health system, and a huge challenge coming down the pipe at us. So I think, one of the investments that government, state and federal have to make is in building a system, a 21st century system of modern mental health care, probably powered to some degree by digital and telehealth, because we've learned a lot of things in the crisis from having to adapt in that way, but also having much better face-to-face and more skilled and complex capacity. We also want to draw volunteers and peer workers into that mix as well, so we get that kind of trust and deep understanding of what it's like to experience mental ill health. So I think we've got the building blocks of a really great new system of care if we can get governments to invest and we can create the new workforces to actually to work within these new cultures of care. So I'm feeling pretty optimistic, actually. You might think that that's a bit delusional, but actually, the governments have borrowed a lot of money, so I don't think money is going to be the problem. They will actually worry about debt, I suppose, but interest rates are low, so we have to keep the pressure up on government to make sure this gets done. And I think the money will be available. In Victoria, we have a political commitment that the Royal Commission's recommendations are going to be implemented 100%. So, and I can tell you the design of that new system is going very, very well, in our state at least. So I think I am feeling pretty optimistic. And I think the best insurance policy we can actually create here to make sure that these reforms and this much better situation does actually transpire is if we mobilise our communities, which you do incredibly well in Albury-Wodonga, and you're a lesson to every other community around Australia in that respect. It's people power. And we have set up, with Stu and Annette, an organisation called Australians for Mental Health, which is designed to campaign and help governments that are in good faith get the community support they need to actually implement these reforms. And so we have to mobilise hundreds of thousands, even millions of Australians behind this effort to ensure that we actually get equity in healthcare, so people with mental illness get the same access and quality of care that people with COVID-19 have got, or any other physical illness. We just haven't had that. We've never had that in mental health, and people have died in significant numbers as a result. Probably a lot more than will die from the COVID-19 epidemic if you look at it over a longer period of time. We still lose 3,000 people a year to suicide in Australia every year. We lose 8 people a day. And, when you put that against, the viral epidemic, it's in the same ballpark, actually. It's a chronic epidemic. It's a chronic crisis that we haven't responded to. But I think the more personal awareness of the importance of mental health that the COVID-19 epidemic has created in every Australian, I think, is going to help us with that task. If there is an economic downturn, the need for that is going to be even more important, because we know that in recessions and depressions, suicide rates go up. The financial and the other threats to our security really affect people's mental health. So there are so many reasons for doing this, but we are very well positioned in this country to do it. And it partly depends on you, the public, as to how successful that effort actually is, because governments can get distracted, and we've got to make sure they keep their eye on this ball. So, thank you I can't say thank you for coming out, because you haven't come out, you're online, but it's great to be able to connect with you in this way, and wish you all the very best, and stay well, stay safe, and hope we all come through this together.